Many people who know the Epic of Gilgamesh think that it is only a mythical story, something they thought was just a mythos. A new excavation discovery made by archaeologists in Iraq comes close to confirming the authenticity of the famous giant Gilgamesh. The Sumerians describe it as a humanoid, but non-physical spirit. Where in Iraq did archaeologists find this grave? What was it like when it was opened again after years of being downgraded? And how does it work on our basic understanding of the Epic of Gilgamesh? They continue to discover all this and more. There is nothing more exciting than discovering that figures you think were only in ancient myths were actually real human forms walking the earth. One of the most legendary is King Gilgamesh from the Epic of Gilgamesh. The Epic of Gilgamesh revolves around the life, challenges, and personal change of the titular character, King Gilgamesh of Uruk, in which heroic states and superhuman qualities are the center of the stories. Gilgamesh is described as a two-thirds god and a trittle person. This gives him incomparable powers and qualities. With a mighty stature that dwarfs others and a beauty that rivals the gods, he makes his divine origins seem special. But with such powers comes arrogance. Gilgamesh's former reign is made public through his tyrannical story, as he summons his subjects with endless construction projects and asserts his rights over freshly relocated women who leave his people in fear and screams. In response to the prayers of the people of Uruk, the gods fashion a wild man from clay on behalf of Enkidu, designed to match Gilgamesh in strength. Enkidu's mission is first to weaken the king and prevent him from offering further damage. But after a dramatic, open-ended ring camp, Gilgamesh and Enkidu become incredibly creepy friends. Their bond is deep. And together they embark on a series of adventures that further enhance Gilgamesh's advantages. One of their earlier adventures leads them to the Zaydenwald, the travel area of the half-god Humbaba. Proud of Humbaba's immense power, the two friends are guided by Gilgamesh's desire for fame and honor to the Zaydenwald. Armed with his immense power, decision, and the help of the sun god Shamash, Gilgamesh opposes Humbaba and kills him. This task, while confirming his height as a strangely striking fighter, also carries the care of the gods. Further evidence of Gilgamesh's power is that he returns the striking version of the goddess Ishtar. Troubled by this distance, Ishtar sends the Bull of Heaven to destroy Uruk. With united forces, Gilgamesh and Enkidu confront the heavenly creature and prepare to kill them and further agitate the pantheon. This padding has its price. The gods decide that one of the two friends must pay for their disobedience. They decide for Enkidu, who will soon be sickened and killed. This loss frightens Gilgamesh, who until now considered himself invincible. His efforts carry him to his deepest journey yet, the struggle for unkillability. Distressed, he tries to make Enkidu's story and the indelibility of death disappear. Gilgamesh searches for Utnapishtim, a man who was given eternal life after surviving a great flood. A message that advances Noah's biblical history and draws comparisons with her. This journey tests Gilgamesh's limits. He contemplates big mountains, pits himself against the Scorpio man and his girlfriend, and navigates the seas of death. His heroics on the way there support his unkillability and challenge and the responsibility to join the story. However, Utnapishtim declares to Gilgamesh that unmurderability is beyond the reach of men. He tells his story about the flood, how the gods decide to exclude humanity, and how he was chosen to survive and later receive eternal life as a one-sided gift. To interrogate Gilgamesh's decision, Utnapishtim sets a task. If Gilgamesh stays awake for 7 days, perhaps he will discover the secret of eternal life. Gilgamesh predictably splits, making even clearer the limits of his God-given powers against nature and the glorious decree. By the way, Utnapishtim offers Gilgamesh a consolation plaster, a plant that can restore youth. he sees an opportunity to bring something valuable back to Uruk. Gilgamesh gets the plant, but loses it to a snake on the way back. Had bad luck. But all was not lost, as Gilgamesh returned a wiser king while retaining his incomparable physical strength and power. For many centuries, researchers and historians had to explain the epoch of Gilgamesh to prove that he was a real historical figure. But it took the exercises of one man, Austin Henry Lanyard, centuries to really get things moving. Lanyard's excavations in the ancient city of Nineveh, which began in 1849, were groundbreaking. Not only did he explain the size of the Assyrian civilization, but he also discovered a lot of artifacts and inscriptions that pointed to a deep literary culture. Also, the libraries of Ashurbanipal, the last important king of the Assyrian Empire. The libraries that Laird grew into were a reservoir of erasure, with thousands of keystone tables, which have been kept under the ruins for years. These tables were the remnants of Ashurbanipal's commitment to collect wisdom from all parts of his empire. The discovery of these Laird tables was of significant significance, for the library was the most important source for understanding Assyrian culture, their religious beliefs, histories, and literature. Among the large number of tables from the library, fragments that would later be identified as parts of the Epic of Gilgamesh stood out. This epic, one of the oldest in the world, describes the adventures of Gilgamesh, the Sumerian king, and his friend Enkidu. The fragments of the epic found in Ashurbanipal's library were written in Akkadian, the speech of the Assyrian and Babylonian voyages. The tables were not full copies, but rather segments. Particularly worth mentioning is the Flood translation, which draws astonishing comparisons with the biblical translation of the Arch of Noah. The discovery of this equation was an academic revelation that draws on common or interconnected mythological and religious traditions. After the excavation, a large portion of the artifacts, including the Gilgamesh fragments, were found. They were taken to the British Museum in London. This museum became one of the most important collections for Assyrian artifacts, and remains so today. The significance of these discoveries sparked a new interest in Mesopotamian archaeology. In the following years, more expeditions from different nations were launched. Everyone is trying to find out more about the cradles of civilization. In the British Museum, the tables of further research and conservation were examined and considered. They are still a main attraction for visitors interested in ancient civilizations. The museum was also socially involved in the research of these artifacts. Working with international scientists, the British Museum facilitated research, leading to more transmissions and a deeper understanding of the ancient Mesopotamian world. The Epic of Gilgamesh, from the fragments discovered by Laird and later found by other expeditions, has been produced in many tables and occupies an estimated place in world literature. But beyond its literary value, the Epo offers a deep insight into themes such as friendship and the human fear of death, and the search for meaning and immortality. Current themes every day. Laird's foreseeable death in 1994 ended his direct contribution to this field. His discoveries at Nineveh and Nimrud laid a solid foundation for the scientific exploration of the ancient Orient. The artifacts he excavated, especially those connected to the Epic of Gilgamesh, not only discovered a world that had been faded for years, but also bridges of understanding across time that made visible the common human experiences across the era. It influenced research work on the Epic of Gilgamesh, leading to the astonished discovery of Gilgamesh's tomb in today's Iraq. And while Laird was deservedly credited for the excavation of these tables, George Smith, an Assyriologist from the British Museum, is credited with identifying and expressing these tables. Smith's expression in the 1870s led to the recognition of the Gilgamesh translation in the extensive skill in writing that Laird discovered. George Smith was the first to discover and express the Epic of Gilgamesh. His work sheds new light on the ancient civilization of Mesopotamia and its connections with the biblical tradition. Smith was 18 years old and was raised in a working-class family in London. He had only a limited formal expression, and at the age of 14 became a junior apprentice who specialized in the graphography of banknotes. But he had a different leadership for tables and history, which he lived out in his spare time. He taught himself to read and write various ancient writings, such as Egyptian hieroglyphic and Greek, Hebraic, and banknote writing. The banknotes were the writing system of ancient Mesopotamia, who wrote with bank-like drawings on display tables. The tables were excavated from the ruins of Nineveh, the capital of the Assyrian Empire. From Laird and other archaeologists such as Henry Rawlinson and Hormuzd Rassam. As mentioned, the tables were sent to the British Museum in London, where they were stored in large piles and waited for someone to wear them out. Smith was fascinated by these tables and spent his lunch break in the British Museum studying the then considerable key writing. He also befriended Samuel Birch, the director of the Antiquities Department, who recognized him with Sir Henry Rawlinson, the front door of the Assyriologists of his day.